How many people do you know who struggle with their health? Chances are, whether they show it or not, most of the people in your life do. And chances are, you're one of them. Whether you're dealing with anxiety, depression, endometriosis, acne, eczema, autoimmune, thyroid, Lyme, brain fog, fatigue, or any other symptom or condition, you're far from alone. Living with symptoms has become the new normal. So no more guessing games. It's time to get answers. Welcome to the Medical Medium Podcast. I'm Anthony William. We're talking about food sensitivities. When it comes to food, everyone plays games. From cheat meals to comfort foods to binges to low-calorie starvations. I've seen it all. And I've seen it all out there, especially the whole bunch of people who say, this food made me sick, that food made me sick. The old food made you sick game, which is actually possible. Indeed it is. When it comes to food, it gets complicated though, and there are a lot of things people don't know. Get ready for this ride. Hold on to your britches, because this is no joke. This is real serious. Get your seatbelts on, and maybe get yourself a little bit of lemon balm tea, because we're going straight into it. Food sensitivities. Wow, that looks good. What did you order? Steak? That's the juiciest steak I've ever seen. Yeah, oh, here comes mine. Amazing. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, great. Put that there. Can I get a glass of water too? Great. All right, let's eat. Let's eat. All right. Okay. Does this food love me or loves me not? Does this food loves me or loves me not? Does this food love me or loves me not? What am I doing? I have to say that before I eat. What am I doing with this tomato? I was singing. I wasn't singing. I was, the love me not thing, does she love me? Does she love me not? And I do that to the tomato because I'm thinking that I'm going to probably have a problem with that tomato in my salad. What do you mean? The cheese? Well, no, I have cubes of cheese in my salad, but that never gives me any problems. I got some hard-boiled eggs in here. That never gives me any problems either. It's always this tomato. There's something about it. Maybe it's something I read, but I think I react. Anyway, does this tomato love me? Oh, loves me not. I had some bloating the other day, and I thought it was a tomato I had. I'm sensitive to foods. I'm like totally sensitive to foods. What's in the dressing? I don't know, oil and vinegar. Yeah, I love this place. But I'm sensitive to all these different foods, and I've been talking to this guy, this new guy I see. He says tomato. So I've been bloated lately. I'm thinking that's it. All right. Let's eat. Just enough of this. Does it love me? Does it love me not? There are differences from when someone is eating a strawberry or peanut butter, and then their throat closes up and they can't breathe and they're in trouble. And then there's a difference between eating a strawberry and nothing happens. But you are told that you're sensitive to strawberries, even though nothing happens. And then there's the whole difference between not feeling good when eating a certain food, where you can sometimes connect the dots to that food, where you think that that food isn't working for you and you almost connect the dots, but then again, you're not sure if it really is a problem or it's not. And then the whole symptom thing. I'm bloating. I'm bloating because I had that banana. It's the banana that made me bloat. Well, then you think about it for a little bit and you're like, well, I bloated last week and I bloated yesterday and I bloated 3 days ago and I wasn't eating a banana then. Because maybe it isn't the banana, but I'm bloating now and I had a banana. It must be the banana. But what made me bloat 2 days ago? What made me bloat 5 days ago? What was it then? Was it a bagel I ate? Was it an egg I ate? Was it some other food? Was it another fruit, a vegetable? Was it oatmeal? What made me blow up? What made me bloat? Or is it just random? Is it just coming and going and I'm confused and I'm going to blame it all on the banana? If someone is sensitive to a food, that food could give them bloat days later. People don't understand this. You eat a cheese pizza one day and you may not be bloated as you're eating those slices of pie. But when you get it down, it's sitting in there, percolates overnight. The next day, you're like, well, I can't tell. Nothing's really happening. But 3 days later, you're bloated. You ate an apple. You're like, it's this apple. It's this evil apple that just caused bloat. Meanwhile, it's the gluten that's been sitting in your intestinal tract, taking 3 days to feed all the unproductive fungus and to feed the good fungus and to feed the strep and the C. diff and the H. pylori and the staph and the E. coli. And as it's sitting there festering in you, your bloat comes days later, but you're not going to line it up to the pizza you had 3, 4, 5 days ago. It's like musical chairs. You just don't know what chair you're going to land on in the moment. You could have pizza a week ago and then blame the apple, blame the strawberry, blame the grapes, blame the banana, blame the salad, blame the piece of kale you had, blame anything, because that's what it comes down to. You don't know when it's going to hit. You don't know when it's going to happen from what food in the past caused it. And now you're in a place where you're blaming all the wrong foods. Remember, medical medium information. Dairy could sit in your intestinal tract feeding things for a long time. Same with eggs, same with gluten, same with corn. You can have corn a week ago, could still be in your system, still be in your liver, your intestinal tract, feeding all kinds of different pathogens, yeast, mold, everything. And then something blows up after you just had a sip of celery juice. Meanwhile, it was that other stuff percolating and feeding everything for days and days. Let's talk about the landscape inside your gut. You got all kinds of different things going on there. You got old, packed food along the lining of your intestinal tract and colon, stuff that's been in there for years, all caked and hardened and plaqued. Then you got all kinds of different pockets. People have pockets that are filled with a little bit of gas, some debris, some E. coli, some strep, some other stuff in there, all sitting there all along the different corners of your small intestinal tract and colon, around the bend and around the corners. You get these little pockets. As the years go on, pockets grow, and then stuff sits in there. And then there's hot spots, sensitive nerve hot spots, just sitting in different areas of your intestinal tract. Inflammation pockets where you could feel things and things hurt and cramp and stitches occurs and all kinds of different cramps occur. And then there's other things too. There's narrowings and expansions. People have a lot of narrowings where the small intestinal tract is getting narrow and parts of the colon are turning into megacolon. They're expanding. All this stuff is happening as food's going in and down the pike. And then weak peristaltic action, where your colon and intestinal tract is not twisting and massaging properly. Your vagus nerves are sending signals to your intestinal tract, and your intestinal tract is not twisting. Your spinal nerves are sending signals to your intestinal tract, and it's not twisting the way it needs to. It's almost like deadpan. The information's not getting there properly. And then food isn't really moving through like it needs to. It's not getting massaged through. And then there's the liver, overloaded, stagnant, sluggish, overworked, filled with all kinds of different garbage and debris, toxins from yesteryear, toxins from lifetimes before, in the sense passed down from generation to generation, from your family, your grandparents, to your parents, to you, toxins that are still sitting in that liver. The liver being overloaded, filled with pathogens of all different kinds, because people have a variety of pathogens trapped in their liver, living in there every day. And a liver that's fatty, sluggish, stagnant, not working like it needs to, and about to do a spill. Spills that aren't detoxing, spills that are because of an overload. And then there's the pancreas. A pancreas that's been maxed out. I've said this for years. People use it as if it was a credit card. They beat the crap out of their pancreases. All that fat going in every day, wearing and tearing on that pancreas, all that sugar and fat combo of bombos that are all inside their bloodstream, creating insulin resistance and telling the pancreas to shoot out a ton of insulin, pancreas abominations everybody's up against every day. And then the emotional hits that hit the pancreas too. All the stress we're under hits the pancreas direct. So weak pancreas is on top of everything else. And then there's the appendix. If you still have it, you still have your appendix. Everybody's appendix has problems. It's pocketed out or it's out pocketed. It's got divots. It's got holes in it. It's got inflammation. It's got white blood cells all trapped on it. It's got all kinds of different bugs on it and around it. Everybody has a little bit of inflammation in their appendix or around it, making a problem happen where food is rolling through, gets hung up, gets snagged because it's bulging. And then there's the ileocecal valve. Yep, the ileum area. That's tricky for most people. Cramping, pain on the lower right side. It's not the appendix causing it, but instead, ileocecal valve right there. There's inflammation that occurs. It gets crusted up. It gets impacted all the time on a lot of people. It gets hung up where you get an expansion right before it. So coming from the small intestinal tract to the colon, you get an expansion in there in that valve. And people suffer from this all the time. Constipation, diarrhea, blowouts, inflammation that's chronic, totally mystery. Nobody knows why. A lot of times people have to get them surgically removed or worked on in some way, somehow. But that's a difficult one all on its own. And then the stomach glands, toasted out. Everybody burns them out with coffee and caffeine and all kinds of other different abominations. And those little gastric glands get worn and torn and your gastric juices grow weak. And the HCl is non-existent. Proteins going in your stomach. You think they're digesting, but they're rotting. And people get gut rot every day. And that gut rot just percolates and ammonia just spews through the body because of all that rotting putrefied protein that never got broken down because the HCl is low. And that ammonia gas is going through bones and going through muscle and going through organs. And it's coming out of your throat in the morning, coming out of your mouth, coming out of your anus every single day. Lots of ammonia because your little gastric glands are weakened, all tore up, and they're not producing gastric juice like they're supposed to. And then there's the good old gallbladder. Yep, the good old gallbladder, filled with sludge, filled with sediment, filled with sand, filled with stones, filled with all kinds of pus, filled with crud, filled with everything under the sun that was manufactured in this world. Toxins, poisons, industrial chemicals, all sitting inside the gallbladder. That's right. Because guess what? That little duct that went up to the gallbladder coming from the liver just spewed right up all the garbage and debris, and it sits in that gallbladder, and that gallbladder becomes heavy as a little sack of gold. And when a pathogen or two gets inside that gallbladder, boom, explosion. We have inflammation of the gallbladder now. Chronic inflammation that's mysterious. Nobody knows why. But a pathogen got in there. It's sitting in there. It's living. It's making the gallbladder swell, and someone's got discomfort. And then the nerve endings that line the intestinal tract, that line the colon. Hypersensitive nerve endings. They're all hot wired because someone's got all kinds of toxic heavy metals in their body. They got all kinds of pathogens and viruses. Neurotoxins are being produced. Those neurotoxins land on nerves. Everything is hot wired. You eat something and it hurts. You feel it move around. You feel like it doesn't digest. No food digests in me. I eat a salad. There's no way that roughage digests. I eat a steamed vegetable. There's no way that's digesting. I eat this. I eat that. It just doesn't seem to break down. It doesn't work for me. I got to pick foods that work, pick foods that don't. I don't know what's working. All I know is I'm feeling uncomfortable and the food's moving through and I feel it moving through and it feels like golf balls and it's pushing through. I don't know. I'm sensitive here, sensitive there, all because the person doesn't know they're hot wired. And meanwhile, nobody has a clue. They just don't. They don't know about all these things going on inside their body. And everybody's a little different. Somebody, it's a little bit more here, a little bit less here, a little bit more on the appendix, a little bit more on the gallbladder, a little bit more on the liver, a little bit more on the pancreas, a little bit more on the gastric glands, the HCl, whatever it is. It's a different blend in everybody. Inflammation levels in one person higher, inflammation levels in another person lower, different areas, different places, different peristaltic action responses. Everybody's different, but in the end, they all go to their practitioner, doctor, their health coach. Nobody has a clue. Nobody knows what's going on, and it all gets blamed on detox. But you might get lucky sometimes, and it'll all get blamed on food sensitivities, or you might be lucky again, and it'll be all blamed on your gut microbiome. Either way, you get one of those three: detox, microbiome, whole gut thing being off, or food sensitivities. But here's the funny thing: regardless of it, in the end, whatever you're given to try to cure it, any response you have afterwards, whatever they're giving you, whatever they're doing, whether it's some kind of cleanse or some kind of detoxification supplement or some kind of probiotic or whatever it is, if you make one complaint, they're most likely going to say you're detoxing. And then the food games start. Avoid this food, eat this food. Avoid that food, eat this food. Nope, don't eat strawberries, don't eat tomatoes, don't eat bananas, don't eat potatoes, don't eat this, don't eat that. Better stay away from that. Better stay away from this. And it all starts. And then the person's like, what do I do? I'm detoxing. I'm taking all these formulas. I don't know what to eat. I'm trying this 1 minute, trying that 1 minute. I'm bloating. I don't feel good. And everybody's just lost. What people don't realize out there, that people can be like a ticking time bomb, in the sense where all it takes is just something pushing something over the edge, like a pocket in the intestinal tract filled with pus, filled with acid, filled with pathogens and H. pylori and E. coli. And all of a sudden you eat something and you're eating something healthy, and it goes and it hits that pocket and it pushes some of that stuff along. And then you're experiencing something and you're like, whoa, I'm allergic to this food, or this food is causing this problem. Meanwhile, all that food did was it was a little bit of roughage, and it moved along and it pushed out a pocket to try to clear it out. And boom, an explosion happens where you're feeling something. But don't get fooled. That's not detoxification. That's not detoxing. Any food eventually can do that. That's why you're sick to begin with. That pocket does spill over every now and then. It does blow up and release every now and then. That's the whole point. You could be eating donuts, and one day it just blows up in that moment. Things push along, and boom, all that poisonous gas and other things are kind of moving along, and those pathogens explode and leave, and your white blood cells are going nuts, and everything's going crazy in there. Some inflammation rises up, and you're just like stuck in it. Like, what the heck? Because it's not detoxification technically, or really, it's just happenstance. In that moment, food's moving through and it hit that pocket and it blew it up, and that's called happenstance. No matter if you're eating really bad, if you're living your life, it's happening anyway. You're toxic, your liver's overflowing, everything's just all cockeyed, everything's toxic and all built up, and plaque is everywhere, and proteins that haven't been digested are everywhere. Pathogens are all crawling everywhere. And then boom, it's just explosions here, explosions there. You're like ticking time bomb inside, where this blows up. The ileum gets inflamed. The appendix wants to actually get swollen. Your gallbladder starts to get tight. All this stuff is happening. Your HCL's diminishing. Foods go in, it's moving stuff around, and we're heading to the doctor. We're heading to this doctor, and we're looking for answers. And we're buying this program, and we're buying that program, and we're hoping it fixes it, and we're confused. And in the end, everybody who has anything to do within the health scene whatsoever will just say, oh, that's from detox, you're detoxing. Because nobody knows what's going on inside there. They don't know about your gastric glands being so weak they're not producing HCl. They don't know about your bile reserves being weak and not breaking down fats and dispersing them. They don't know about your liver being swollen and fatty and filled with all kinds of garbage and it's overflowing. They don't know about the different hot spots and pockets, and they don't know how sensitive your nerves are all around your intestinal tract, and they don't know a lot of these things. And instead, we just say, whoa, you're detoxing, you're detoxing, you're detoxing, you're detoxing, you're detoxing, you're detoxing. That's it. By my program, by this. Oh, you're feeling that way? You're detoxing. And it's getting dangerous out there. A lot of people have sensitive nerves in there. Their vagus nerves are sensitive, inflamed, pressing up against the intestinal tract, the stomach, the small intestinal tract, the colon. And so when food moves through, it hits these hot spots. And people are confused. They think it's the food. That's what they think. Meanwhile, it's that food moving through, and as it's pushing through, it's rubbing. See, there's no space inside of us. I talk to people all the time about this, including even doctors, and they're like, oh, there's lots of space inside of us. There's space in between that and in that and that. No, there isn't. Everything is all crammed together inside of us, smashed together. That means when food is moving through your intestinal tract, it's pushing, and on the outside of that intestinal tract is hitting something else. It's not like there's all this space in there between your intestinal tract and your other organs. They're crammed together, jammed together. So when that food is moving through, it's pushing that lining. And if that lining has a nerve that's sensitive, you're getting an alarm bell going to your brain. And then your conscious state says, it's the food. It's that food I ate. It's that one thing I ate. That's the bad thing. And now that registers as PTSD. That food is on your PTSD list now. It's sitting there. It's on that list. You know that list of 4 foods? That's the PTSD foods. From mistakenly thinking that that food caused you harm when it actually didn't. A lot of people out there have a PTSD food chart. They may know it, they may not. They may not realize it's PTSD. They may realize it is PTSD. But the food chart can build up over time. It could have apples on there because their lips got numb when they bit an apple one day. It could be strawberries because they were told strawberries are bad. People have bad reactions. They could be bananas because they're told bananas are too high in sugar. That goes on the PTSD list. Lettuce is a big one on a lot of PTSD charts, because people eat lettuce and don't think it actually breaks down and digests. They think it just stays like it is and moves through their intestinal tract and hurts them. Doesn't digest. Their stomach gurgles. They feel a little discomfort. And lettuce then sits on the PTSD chart. But what's really happening is they have sensitive nerves. It's digesting. It's breaking down. It's doing its thing. But because it's roughage, it's massaging the linings of the intestinal tract and colon and the duodenum too. So as it's going down, it's rubbing the linings. Their nerves are sensitive. They're hot wired. They have hot spots. Because of that, they're feeling it. And then they think it's not digesting or breaking down, so it goes on the PTSD chart. Then when they eat an egg or a piece of toast, it just turns into glue. A goopy glue that sits in the middle of their duodenum, the middle of their stomach, the middle of their small intestinal tract and colon. It doesn't really rub the sides. It can feed bad pathogens, unproductive fungus, yeast, and mold on the sides of the colon, but it doesn't massage or rub hard on the sides of the intestinal tract or colon. So it doesn't give them the sense that it's moving. So they think they're digesting it perfectly fine, but they're not digesting it perfectly fine. Instead, it's turning into a glue, staying in the center and sliding on through, not causing a problem. So eggs and toast, bread and cheese don't make the PTSD list for a lot of people. But yet eggs, butter, cheese, dairy, yogurt, gluten, bread, and so forth enhance problems. So those feed the pathogens inside the intestinal tract. Those pathogens grow, proliferate, and explode, creating more inflammation and problems to the lining of the intestinal tract and colon, setting off more sensitive nerves. So it's a catch-22. You're eating those things. You feel fine with it moving through, but yet you become more sensitive when you eat a piece of lettuce, because your nerves are still being hot wired by all those pathogen toxins. The nerves are still inflamed because of those other foods like eggs, cheese, butter, milk, dairy of all sorts, gluten are feeding all the pathogens, growing them, creating more neurotoxins, making more nerves hot wired and more sensitive, making it so when you eat a blueberry or you eat a piece of lettuce or a celery stick, you're going to feel it moving through even more. So it becomes a vicious cycle, a catch-22. And then the milk, the dairy, the cheese, the butter, the yogurt, the eggs, the kefir, and the gluten and the corn, and even some soy is feeding bacteria. Bacteria that's actually feasting on it, creating more pockets and more problems, more ammonia gas, more toxins coming from bacteria, more pockets that get disturbed when you eat things. So now you go and eat some lettuce, a celery stick, some raw cucumbers, some raw tomatoes, and some other things like other greens like spinach leaves and so forth. And as that's moving down, it hits one of those pockets. Those pockets kind of explode. More ammonia gas goes everywhere. You bloat a little bit and you're like, darn that lettuce. Meanwhile, it's the eggs, cheese, the butter, the milk, the dairy, and the gluten and the corn. Those are constantly feeding all those pathogens, all the bacteria, and all the bugs. So as all that's happening and exploding in the gut, unproductive yeast, unproductive mold, and unproductive fungus. And when these feeding frenzies are occurring, all these gases and all these blood gases occur, and all this ammonia happens, and all this acid is produced. That acid can come up, the acid reflux. That acid can go into the bloodstream. That acid can go into the muscles. And then people say, well, that's lactic acid in the muscles. But no, that is food pathogen acid in the muscles. So then when you're sore and everything's hurting and your muscles are hurting after a workout, someone's going to say, a trainer or a health coach are going to say that's lactic acid buildup. That's all that is. Meanwhile, a lot of people don't have lactic acid in their muscles. They have acids produced by bugs in the colon and intestinal tract. When people's sensitivity levels are really high, they're sensitive to everything. They're sensitive to heat. They can't sit out in the sun. They're sensitive to cold. They freeze. They're sensitive to everything. Sensitive to dampness. Sensitive when the weather changes. Sensitive when winter comes. Sensitive when the seasons change. Sensitive to every single thing they eat. Sensitive to smoke. Sensitive to irritants. Sensitive to chemicals. They're just all outright sensitive. Now, everybody's different. Their sensitive levels can be from a host of different things in combination. One person can have toxic heavy metals, be high in mercury, be high in copper or aluminum. Another person be high in arsenic and lead and aluminum. Another person, their liver can be really stagnant and sluggish and spilling over. All these toxins and poisons are just dumping into the bloodstream periodically. Another person could be sensitive because they have pathogens, lots of neurotoxins, and another person can have all of these, all and above, and more. And now that person is reacting to everything, or almost everything. They're reacting when they're in a car taking a ride. They're reacting to the air and the smog. They're reacting to every food that goes in their mouth. They're in a state of crisis. That person can be everything sensitive. Pharmaceutical sensitive. They don't want to touch any prescribed pharmaceuticals. They're afraid. They react. They're supplement sensitive. Every time they try a supplement, they react. They're food sensitive. Every food they try, they react. And they're chemical sensitive. Everything chemical based that goes near them, any sprays from any cleaning supplies, anything else like that, detergents and so forth, any sprays, any smells, any pesticides, anything, they react. What often happens to people that are this reactive, they get pushed into a corner like a rat. They get pushed, and that pushing makes it so they do the elimination diet. They're in a place now where they start eliminating every fruit, every vegetable, almost every single food that's edible gets eliminated except for meat and meat alone. So they end up going on a lamb diet or grass-fed beef diet or all chicken or all eggs. But many times it eventually becomes just meat and only that. And it's not about being carnivore. It's just meat. This is long before the carnivore movement. These are people that got so sensitive, they were pushed in such a corner that they didn't know where else to go because they knew they can't eat bread. They knew to stay away from grains or beans. They were told to stay away from these. And they realized no matter what they tried, a vegetable, a fruit, a tomato, an apple, they just had problems, bloating or cramping or some other kind of issue too. So they end up just eating meat alone. And for a short time, reactions start to wind down. And they're like, I found the panacea. I can just be on meat alone. Their bloating calmed down a little bit. Some of their symptoms calm down and they can see the light. So they're like, I can do this. And then something occurs. You do it long enough and deficiencies happen. And not just severe deficiencies, but glucose deficiencies. You can't function anymore. You start walking into walls. You can't really feel the energy that you once felt, and you end up in trouble. And then you have to branch out once again into other foods, and it's a really scary thing. And then other symptoms arise that you may not have had in the past. Now you're constipated all the time, and you can't go to the bathroom. You got a lack of energy more than you did before. And as they're bringing in more food, and this could be any elimination diet, as they're bringing in more food, they're starting to get reactions again and problems because there's roughage, there's fiber, things are moving through their intestinal tract, hitting hot spots, acids are being produced, they don't know what to eat, what to choose, and the problems aren't solved. Like they're doing the meat and the meat only, but that doesn't allow the liver to heal and has nothing to do with whether meat's good, meat's bad. A meat-only diet doesn't let a liver heal and breathe. It's the Wild West when it comes down to food sensitivities or any sensitivities. You don't know which way to go and what to do, and no one seems to understand the symptoms that you're suffering with. So you're trying different foods and eliminating different foods, and you're hoping for the best. And sometimes you get this elevation of energy. Sometimes you get symptom relief. But then for some reason, it's back to the drawing board again, and it all goes wrong. A lot of influencers who experiment with their diet and experiment their symptoms are out there on social, and they're eating a certain way, and they're teaching everybody to do it. And then 6 months later, they change, and they change it to something else because it failed and it didn't work for them anymore. And you got all these people following along, and it's failing for them too. And now it's back to the drawing board with something new every 6 months. Food allergy testing is still big these days. People go and they get different tests, different doctors that have different modalities and different ways and techniques of testing to see if you're sensitive to any foods. So food sensitivity tests, but they're catastrophic for a lot of people and create a lot of PTSD. I'm not saying don't go to your doctor and do this or change what you're doing. I'm just saying from what I've seen out there, a lot of people, they actually suffer emotional disturbances because they're told to avoid so many different foods that it makes it really hard on them. They'll get a list. It'll be like avoid apples, peaches, pears, nectarines, cherries, parsley, cilantro, watermelons, zucchinis, broccoli, cauliflower, kale, cabbage. And then it'll be like, what do I eat? And then the head screw continues. You go there again, you get new tests like stay away from walnuts, cashews, hazelnuts, sesame seeds, sunflower seeds, and stay away from chickpeas and black beans and other beans too, and aduki beans. Stay away from different grains like teff and amaranth. And what happens is the madness starts to really settle in and people are totally confused. Like, what do I do and what do I eat? 10, 15 years ago, they would always say, you can eat eggs though, that's great. You can eat milk, cheese, and butter, that's great. You're not allergic to any of those. But now the tests have changed. All the medical medium books out there, all the information about eggs and dairy and gluten that medical medium information put out there all these years. The tests are changing. Why are they changing? Doesn't make any sense, but they are now. And now they'll say, yep, stay away from eggs. You got an egg allergy. You got a dairy allergy. You got a cheese allergy. You shouldn't be drinking milk. And they'll say, maybe you can try some goat's milk. It doesn't seem to be a problem here on your test. But oh yeah, stay away from parsley. Stay away from some other kind of herb. Stay away from sage. Stay away from thyme. But ooh, you can do this now or stay away from that. And people are going mad from this. And this is something that people have a scar in their soul about. A lot of people who go through this do about 2 to 3 years of it. And then they start losing their minds and they just end up binging and eating everything. When people do the right thing to clean up their bodies, start restoring their liver, cleaning out the gunk, getting it healthier, less stagnant and less sluggish, strengthening the pancreas, cleaning up the blood, strengthening the gastric glands so food actually breaks down and digests, strengthening their bile reserves so fats can be dispersed, cleaning up their gallbladder, healing their nerves, killing pathogens that are creating toxins that irritate every nerve in their body, cleaning up their brains of toxic heavy metals. When all of that starts to happen a little bit at a time, because it's a process, depending on how someone is, how much of this is happening inside their body, It's a process. And as they're starting to clean all of this up, they're able to eat foods they haven't eaten before in years. Many people who come to medical medium information were only allowed to eat 4 blueberries. 4 blueberries, and that was it. They couldn't eat apples. They couldn't eat tomatoes. They couldn't eat bananas. They couldn't eat melons. They couldn't eat watermelon. They couldn't have potatoes. They couldn't eat cauliflower. They couldn't have fruits. They couldn't have red peppers. They couldn't have broccoli. They couldn't have grains. They couldn't have beans. And they were eating meat, cheese, butter, and eggs and dairy, but they couldn't have that either because they were suffering and sick and it wasn't working for them as well. So they were stuck. They were like, what do I eat? And then when they found medical medium information, it was like a halo of light. It was like the sky opened up. They were able to eat things because they learned why they were sick and then learned protocols they can customize for themselves to heal. So their livers were healing, their gastric glands were healing, their organs were healing. They were killing off pathogens, killing off bacteria, killing off viruses, getting their deficiencies cleared up. And when they were doing that, they were just healing and able to incorporate more foods they haven't eaten in years or weren't allowed to eat. Now they're eating bowls of wild blueberries and different fruits and vegetables and leafy greens and wild foods and herbs. And they were cleansing naturally. Their body's ability to cleanse was ignited. Their livers knew when to release things. Their body knew how to cleanse naturally and not forced. The body has a natural ability to heal. It just has to get the things it needs. We have to be able to give our body the tools so our body can use them, and then that natural ability kicks in and we start healing. And our body needs a break from the things that stop our body from healing, that get in the way of our healing. There are thousands of testimonials from people who are on restrictive diets out there, could hardly eat anything. They came to medical medium information. They learned what was causing their condition and their symptom. They learned what was causing their suffering. They were able to customize a protocol and incorporate new foods into their diet. Their body systems started to heal one by one. Their endocrine system, their central nervous system, their cardiovascular system, lymphatic system. And what they found was they can eat more foods than they could before. It wasn't restrictive to eat medical medium. It was freedom. All those years of suffering, not knowing what to eat, all those reactions, all of the food fear and frustrations and PTSD, all wiped away. They put it behind them. And some go back to the old ways of eating. They go back to eating comfort foods they haven't eaten in years. They go back to eating party foods and foods they used to binge on and cheat with that they haven't done in years. But the difference is they're not reacting to any of them, and they don't feel sick on them anymore, and they're not having problems. They're not bloating. They're not brain fogged. They're not tired. They're liberated, and they can't believe it. They're eating ice cream, macaroni and cheese, pizza, cheeseburgers, and their body is taking it like a champ. But some of these people know where they came from and know that if they get an exposure or they overdo it or something happens, they can fall back on the information that got them better. But unfortunately, some forget where they came from and forget how they healed and forget that the work they did got them there. But they forget how bad off they were before. They forget how restricted their life was and their diet was before. They can even forget the symptoms they were suffering with from before. They take their healing for granted. Medical medium information is always here to fall back on when needed. To learn how to heal and overcome food sensitivities and other symptoms and conditions, check out Cleanse to Heal in the Medical Medium book series. There's a food and chemical sensitivity protocol in Cleanse to Heal. You know, I had 2 of those little tomatoes right there. I don't know if I feel good. I wonder if that's why I've been bloating. Kind of having a reaction here. Oh man, I don't know. Just hand me over those onion rings. Can you slide those over? Okay, I'm just gonna have those for now, these onion rings. I notice when I eat onion rings, I just feel fine. You know, they're just, they're deep fried. I don't know, fried food doesn't seem to bother me. I still think I'm feeling a little funny in my mouth about the tomatoes. I can't tell if it's giving me a reaction. Well, I don't know. Can you bring those shrimp over here? They're on the edge of the table. Can you just push them over here? Oh, thanks. Yeah, these fried shrimp are really good. There's a cocktail sauce right there. What's in it? I have no idea. What's the cocktail sauce made out of? Is that Worcestershire sauce or something? What is that? I don't know. It's red. Is that red dye number 5? I don't know. I don't react to things like that. I could eat any of this stuff. Yeah. But I still think I'm having a problem with the tomato. Doctor, I think it's that. What else could it be? It wasn't the Juvliac. I choose to believe it was not that. And without a shadow of a doubt, not the caffeine crack I drank yesterday and will drink tomorrow. Is that the culprit? No, this food blows. Everything I eat brings me sorrow, keeps me low. I don't want to hear it from the pulpit that I need to avoid another caloric load. I know this innocent food is causing my disease. Everything I eat makes me sneeze. I can't look at food these days, but yet I know my body has needs. Doctor, what do you say about that? It made me wheeze. I'm tired of guessing. My symptoms are never ending. I'm ready to transcend above the food blaming. Another scam, sham. Thank you, doctor, for giving me a hand. So many struggle with their food. It's a sad day when we don't know what we're eating and in which way. I've been trying my best, gave it my all. Why are food demons such an ongoing pest? Do angels need to eat? Are they hungry? Do they ever react? I know that angels don't eat at a rib shack. Don't they eat light from God? Do they? Can they come with never-ending power stemming from the Lord? Every food I eat makes me bored. But it doesn't have to be like that. We can heal and eat what our bodies have lacked and move forward and overcome the addiction and the PTSD food struggle that seems at times impossible to ignore. You're on the road to heal. Don't forget. Don't lose direction. It's all yours.
Original published medical medium information gets stolen and poached by podcast doctors, social media doctors, influencers, and medical clinics. Medical medium information has never yet been proven wrong by medical science and research. Instead, the opposite, only proven right and then taken from medical medium published material and used in the conventional and alternative health communities. Medical medium information continually sets the stage for medical science to understand chronic illness better. If you choose to share or use the original, unique content from the Medical Medium podcast, books, or Medical Medium social media, please cite where this information comes from, so others who see and learn of this information have a chance to know where it all originates, to give them an opportunity to heal, so they don't end up losing years of their life searching for answers like so many have before them. The Medical Medium information here on this podcast doesn't come from broken science, interest groups, medical funding with strings attached, botched research, lobbyists, internal kickbacks, persuaded belief systems, private panels of influencers, health field payoffs, trendy traps, or gathered bits and pieces of gimmicky confusion. Because chronic illness is exploding like never before in our modern day history, it takes a greater force than us down here. It takes a helping hand from above. Medical medium information has street cred. It's an organic movement of countless people around the world healing, More healing stories of real people not being paid to tell their life-changing experiences of rising out of the ashes of sickness and entering into the light of full recovery, getting their lives back and finally healing when nothing else in the world of health could move the needle and get them better. The information on this podcast is not man-made. It comes from above, from a higher source. Whatever you believe in, whether God, the universe, the light, or the creator, or if you believe in nothing at all, that we're just floating through space together on this rock. Know that the information you hear on this podcast is separate from all the other noise out there. It comes from a different place, a pure, untampered with, advanced, clean, uncorrupted, original, primary source, a higher source, spirit of compassion.